Hi, Nate. Thank you for joining me. You are president and founder of Jazkarta. You're specialized on web solutions and consulting, and you're also very active in the Plone community. Can you please tell me a little bit more about yourself, Jazkarta, and Plone?
Okay. Well, my background is as a developer, and 5 years ago I started Jazkarta to provide web solutions for nonprofits, small businesses, educational institutions. It was about that time that I got involved with the Plone community, and have been very active ever since, serving on the Plone Foundation board, and just started getting more active in the marketing efforts of Plone.
That's a good point. Marketing a open source project that is community driven isn't that easy, I can imagine. What do you do in terms of marketing Plone?
Well, it's quite different from marketing a commercial product, where you sort of have command and control. Um, Marketing an open source project is a lot more about leveraging the people that are in the community and sort of drawing on their expertise and those resources. So a lot of it is just trying to identify who those people are in the community and involving them in this process, which can sometimes take a little bit more time, but I think the output is much more rich, and you get a lot of different viewpoints. But it certainly has its challenges.
I think one of the challenges is how does a company like Jazkarta relate to a community such as Plone? I've experienced with other open source projects that there are some companies who use that software and who only take care of marketing themselves and don't help the project itself to get more visible. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think everyone has their customers that they're looking after, and everyone has a little bit different specialty. So we're always going to have our own sort of company branded materials. But what we've started trying to do in the Plone community is put together sort of a base set of marketing materials that we can all build on, so that we have a clear and consistent message to potential buyers of Plone. And that's involved several sort of working sessions at the annual Plone conference, where we've gotten a lot of vendors together and we've talked about how can we improve the Plone marketing efforts, and what are the kinds of target markets that we're going after. And so there's really a spirit of collaboration and community that I think is quite unique in an open source project, where we're not so much competitors as we are co-competitors. We're actually cooperating a lot more than we're competing.
That's an interesting point. I guess some of the companies who use Plone, they compete with each other, and yet what you say means that they also cooperate with each other when it comes to marketing Plone itself.
Sure. Most open source vendors, they don't have a lot of funding. They don't have VC funding that they can spend on hiring marketing people and spending a lot of money producing brochures and that sort of thing. So that's often kind of an afterthought. But by coming together, there's a very rich ecosystem of vendors in the Plone community. So by coming together and joining forces, we can be, the sum is greater than the parts, and that we get viewpoints from all these different vendors and their experiences, and we're able to produce, I think, materials that really address the unique needs of the different vertical markets that we're going after.
Do you have something like a Plone marketing team?
Yes, we do. The Plone Foundation was founded several years ago to protect and promote the Plone brand, and the Plone Foundation owns the copyright and the trademark of the Plone name. And as part of the Plone Foundation, we have a marketing committee with people that are selected from the community that have an interest and commitment to improve the Plone marketing efforts. So this is not a vendor-specific group. This is very, very wide and diverse. We have people from 5 different countries on that team.
And what do they do? How do they work together?
Again, it's challenging because we are spread out, and it's not like a single company where you can meet all in the same room and talk things through. So we have meetings, phone meetings, we have to deal with time zone issues like many international companies. But it's really trying to identify what are the unique skills that each person brings to the marketing efforts. And all these people are volunteers, obviously, so we can't really demand that they do things, but I think by drawing out those people from the community, I think we're able to do really great things. And one of the things that we just did recently was the World Plone Day, which, if you're familiar with the Software Freedom Day, it's kind of a similar concept where around the world we had, I think there were 50 cities in 20 countries that on the same day, November 7th, we all had workshops and sort of like a mini conference where people came and talked about Plone, and it was an opportunity to bring newcomers to the Plone community and talk to them about what Plone is and how it might benefit their organization. So we had video streams, people in Japan and people in Germany and people in Brazil and people here in Boston that were all streaming at the same time, and that really had an amazing effect on the Plone community, because there was this sort of single event that everyone was, looking forward to, and I think built a lot of momentum in the community to really think about how we can improve the marketing of Plone.
So what is special about marketing open source software?
Well, I think it's very different from commercial software in that it's very community driven, and there's of course a lot of myths about open source, and I think it can be challenging to overcome those myths in the commercial space. So one of the things that I try to do when I come to conferences like this is to try to break down those myths and explain to people that open source is a viable, there is a viable business case for using open source software, and that's something that we need to remember when we're marketing open source software, is that people have a perception of what it is and what it isn't, and I think it's important to kind of make sure they have their facts straight before they make a decision.
So Jazkarta and Plone, that's the content management space, and there are a lot of open source projects and products out there. I guess marketing is very important here, don't you think so? And why is that the case?
Well, marketing is a way of positioning yourself in the market, and when there are so many products out there, as a consumer, someone is looking to buy an open source product, it can be quite overwhelming, and that means that as an open source product, you really need to have a very strong marketing message, because we are competing with not only other commercial products, but we are competing with other open source products. So I think that it's going to become increasingly important as open source becomes more popular that we're able to position the software in the best possible light and show how it in many cases is superior to commercial software, and in many cases there's weaknesses, and I think we need to continue to be open and transparent, because that's one of the great merits of open source, is that it is very open, and I think the marketing material should reflect that as well.
So what do you think the content management space, will it consolidate or diversify?
I think there's been a lot of consolidation in the commercial space. I think we're starting to see more diversification in terms of content management for particular vertical markets. So there's vendors here that we met today that are specializing in content management solutions for the broadcast media space. We're looking at building a product that's specially targeted towards the nonprofit sector. There's education, government. So I think there's going to be a trend towards more specialized solutions that are targeting certain vertical markets. I think there's also been some diversification in terms of open source projects that have sort of spun off and forked, and that's an unfortunate but oftentimes very healthy thing that can occur with open source products, and I suspect as open source becomes more popular and more commercialized that we're going to start seeing more of that.
Going back to Jazkarta, how much of your budget do you use for marketing, and how do you market yourself?
So traditionally, we've been a consulting company, so a lot of our business comes to us through word of mouth. I also travel and attend a lot of conferences and network, so a lot of the business comes through those kinds of activities. Now that we're transitioning more to a products-based company, there's more of a focus now on positioning our product, and that requires things like brochures and sort of a roadmap, and partnering with different people. So I think as an open source company, we're needing to look much more at our marketing efforts and really building those to support our strategic plan.